Start here with Steve over here on this side.
Hi, Steve Ashburner, NBA.com. Steve, in each of the first 3 rounds, your team has gotten to this point of closeout and taken another game at home to actually get it done. Besides your opponent's survival instincts, is there any common thread that you see that you could preempt or address?
Not really. I just think it's the NBA. You got talented teams. You got talented players you're going against. You're in somebody else's building. It's just not easy to close anybody out in the playoffs. So there's no common thread. We're going to have to play really well to win. Simple as that.
Anthony, back right.
Yeah, I got 2 Clay questions for you. The first, does he look fresher, bouncier on defense to you this series than he has? Maybe he's getting better on that end.
The last couple games, he's looked great defensively. I think there's been times earlier in the playoffs where he's looked really good as well. But I do think he's improved as this series has gone on.
How big were the 2 threes late third by him when, it did feel like the rope was slipping a little bit and he kind of kept you attached?
Yeah, I thought those 2 shots and then Jordan's 2 threes at the end of the quarter were kind of the biggest shots of the game because of what you just said. They had seized momentum and Clay's 2 at the top of the key were just massive. And then Jordan closed out the quarter well for us.
Brian on this side.
Hey, Steve. Brian Mahoney, Associated Press. A couple about you, if you don't mind. Derek White was saying you were helpful to him when he got promoted from the select team to the main roster in 2019. Is there something about you that makes you comfortable sort of reaching out to the non-superstars and making them feel comfortable?
I definitely identify with role players more than I can identify with a star player, just because I have the experience of coming off the bench and trying to figure out a role and all that stuff. But I just enjoyed that time with Derek and actually 4 different Celtics. I mean, we were loaded with Celtics that year. And future Celtics apparently, but we had a really good experience despite not winning the gold medal. It was really fun coaching all those guys, and really grew to admire all of them.
And speaking of the Celtics, there's so much history with them. All the guys I remember who had a lot of rings were all Celtics, and now you could be at 9 pretty soon if you get one more win. People say it's hard to win one. How do you explain getting to the number you've gotten to?
Just hanging around the right people. If you hang around superstars long enough, you're gonna get some residual success falling your way.
Monty on your right.
Monty Poole, NBC Sports Bay Area. Steve, I don't know how often you get a chance to look at individual numbers of your guys, but looking at Clay's game 6s since you've coached the team, the numbers are pretty incredible. He's shooting better than 50% from 3 over all the game 6s combined. Fluke, I mean, what do you make of something like that?
I don't really know what to make of it, nor do I even take the time to think about it because it has nothing to do with us. It has nothing to do with strategy. It just has to do with Clay. He's got a killer instinct and he's really talented, so I don't even give it any thought.
Michael here in the front.
Has anything about Andrew's postseason run surprised you, just given the fact that coming into this year he had only appeared in the playoffs once, only played in one playoff series?
Just the rebounding. Everything else, he's always scored well since he's been in this league. He's been a good defensive player, and he's really established with us over the last couple of years that he's a key defender for us. So none of that has surprised me. The rebounding surprised me. So he's really turned it up in every series And I'm 100% going to hold that against him next year in the regular season. If he's not rebounding, I'm going to remind him that he's proven it now, so there's no excuse.
Steve, a little bit of a more broad question, but in what ways have you seen Steph and Draymond's leadership qualities rub off on some of the younger guys throughout this entire playoff run?
I think it's just in general, just the the advice, the counsel, but maybe more importantly, just the young guys being able to observe Steph and Draymond and Andre and Clay, and just seeing the preparation every single day, the process that those guys go through, getting their work in the training room, in the weight room, on the court, watching film. They're watching some of the best to ever do it, prepare, and there's nothing more valuable than that.
Anyone with a final question? Bobby, back on the left here.
Bobby Manning, CLNS Media. Steve, I just want to ask what you've seen from your team defensively that's allowed them to be so disruptive. Are there certain things about the Celtics that you've tried to take away from them, spots on the floor, passes? Like, what have you kind of emphasized defensively? And then there's always a feeling out process in these series. Felt like you bounced around a bunch of different lineups early. Is that just sort of your coaching style, or was there something about this series you want to try different things?
The first part of your question, we're just trying to put pressure on them and not let them get comfortable. And our guys have done a pretty good job of that the last couple games. Nothing in particular that we're trying to take away. We're just just trying to be as aggressive on the ball as possible and be there and help and be there in rotation. We're not a big shot blocking team like we were a few years ago, so our rotations have to be really solid, and I think they have been. Second question, the first time we really had our team healthy all year was the first game of the Denver series. And what I mean by that is really having Steph, Clay, Draymond, Wiggs on the floor together, Gary and Jordan, coming off the bench, like, Looney. First time we really had everybody together was Denver. So part of this playoff run has been growing and adapting and figuring out what our best combinations are against each opponent. So it's not as set in stone as it was 4 or 5 years ago when we kind of had a set formula. We knew our team really well. We've had to figure some things out on the fly, and our players have been really adaptable during the playoffs. And so I think we've, once we lost Gary in the Memphis series, it set us back, but getting him back, for game 2 was hugely helpful for a lot of reasons. So we finally feel like we have a real feel for the team and what's needed, and the guys have responded really well.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks.